Hey guys, Thomas Asula Jr. here, aka Mustache Time. It's time for me to review Inside Out. And just as a reference, this is going to be a spoiler review. So if you have not seen this movie, uh, this will be a spoiler review. So that is my warning. So the basic story is that once Riley is sort of born into this world, we see that Joy is sort of who's in the center of the group here is introducing herself, what this is all about. She sort of has this thing come up that's like this control thing. She swirls it around, and then it makes the baby laugh, and then we see sadness appear, and then it makes the baby cry. And then as the sequence goes on, we see the other three get introduced via sort of like a montage with fear, disgust, and anger. So, with that being said, we see Riley as an 11-year-old later on, and we are seeing that joy and all the other emotions have these different sort of, I would say, memory orb color things, and each one interacts with what's something she's doing at the moment. And then there's these things called core memories. They're these glowing memories that should not be forgotten, that are very powerful. And as we see Riley grow up, or as the days go on, we see that there's these 5 islands behind her, behind this control center where the 5 emotions are, that are pretty much the core aspects of Riley's life: her family, her friends, her hockey stuff, and then two other ones. I think it was memory, and then thoughts. And I think those are the five. So, anyways, once Riley discovers she's going to move, the emotions are a bit distraught by this. All of them are, actually. And Joy's trying to pick it up, trying to make it feel like, yeah, this could be a good thing. And then as they see this new place, they're like, what? Um, and as that's happening, they're sort of trying to combat what's going on. Sadness sort of takes the helm at one point and makes one of the permanent memories start to become a sad one, and then it almost starts to completely take over. And it happens again a little bit later when she's at school, and the memory becomes permanently sad. And then as Riley's talking during class, as she's introducing herself, she becomes sad. Um, and there and this is probably one of my favorite scenes in this movie, because it doesn't hit the cliche of it's a new student, and then someone else interrupts that student. It's usually like this bully character. I'm really glad they didn't go with the cliche of that happening. Instead, it almost seemed like the students were actually sympathizing with her, and they were quiet and they listened to her story, which was a unique scene. I can't think of any other scene that's probably ever done this before. Or at least I can't think of any off the top of my head. So I thought that was a really beautiful scene of just Riley having a moment, and the emotions are just sort of in the back, and sadness is there. But sadness seems to not completely understand what she's all about, and then through that she's making more memories sad, and then all these memories break loose, and there's this tube that takes the memories and stores them into the memory section, and through that joy and sadness get sucked into this tube, and they get thrown all the way over there. And then it's up to anger, fear, and disgust to figure out what to possibly do. uh, Anger seems to take the most control out of the three. Riley shows emotions of anger, of course, then eventually becomes she wants to move out. She wants to run away from home. And through that adventure, it's up to Joy and Sadness to get back to the main control center and hopefully fix everything. So, as they're trying to get back, they meet a new character named Bing Bong, which is apparently Riley's imaginary friend, and he sort of really sticks around for the majority of the film. So he says he wants to help them through because he understands that their jobs are very important. They are the core emotions, so they obviously have to be back up there. So they want to take this train called I think it was the Imagination Train, which is, or Train of Thought, I think it was called, which is a train that goes back and forth randomly, and they set a course of where it was going to be. So they start going toward there, and while that's happening, Riley's core island memories or aspects from the bottom, from the opposite corner, slowly start to fall into this abyss of disappearing memories. So it's up to them to speed back up to the place. They go through this area called abstract thought after sort of being lost in this maze area of the memories. And there's some moments in there, but they go through abstract thought and they're left but to as they're sort of they start they start to shapeshift into these more simpler forms, and by the time they're at the end, they're pretty much these little strings, and they finally get out, and they barely miss the train, so they have to go further down, hopefully catch the next train, and Riley's just finally starting to head out, I believe, at this point, or she's planning to, she's like sleeping, and they're trying to wake her up to get her to run away from home so that she can have happy memories again of her old home. And I believe it was, I can't remember where they were from, but they went to San Francisco, but I believe it was across country. I can't remember exactly where it was from. I saw a bunch of reviews. I just can't remember at this point. But anyways, uh, Joy and Sadness and Bing Bong continue their journey. They're trying to wake Riley up. Joy is they get into this dream place where the dreams sort of take place, and then it's like this recording thing. And it's I really liked how they laid a lot of this stuff out, and Riley doesn't completely understand. I mean, Joy doesn't completely understand how it works. She tries to be a dog, and it seems to not be working. So Sadness has them rip apart. The dog's all ripped apart, but it almost works. And then they go to get a clown, and she finally wakes up. She starts leaving afterwards, and more of her core memories, back memories, are falling apart. And at some point, the control panel starts to not work, and they see that it's not working. So they're freaking out, of course. So they're on Joy and Sadness end up on this island, and it's falling apart. Joy and Bing Bong end up falling into the abyss, and they end up. Joy ends up having this really sentimental scene where she's holding some of the orbs. She holds one of them that Sadness touched. I believe it was the one from the classroom, and she's seeing what Sadness was referring to earlier, like this sort of sad memory, but they made it a happy memory because her family was there to support her and her friends are there to support her. So it ended up being a happy memory, and she finally looked up after crying, which is something was surprising. She finally realized what they needed to do, and that sort of pushed her to want to get out. Uh, and they and Bing Bong had this rocket cart thing that was shown off in the memories, and they remembered that it would probably be down here with them. So they search for it and find it. They played the song that they remembered that powers this cart, this rocket cart, and they find a ramp and they barely miss it twice. And Bing Bong finally realizes that in order for them to sort of get out, he would have to jump out and let Joy rocket herself back to freedom, back to sadness as well. So he does that. He jumps off during their third takeoff, and I really understood this scene and what it represented. It was a very show don't tell moment of, I think what it represented was Riley had held on to this memory for a bit longer than probably most people would hold on to imaginary friends if they had them. I can personally connect to this. I had imaginary friends that I held on to for a long time, and decided, yeah, it was time to move on eventually. So that's what that moment represented, and I'm really just appreciated of how they played the scene out. Really sentimental. Bing Bong waves goodbye. Joy and sadness. Sadness sort of goes on this like crying rampage. She's sort of on this cloud now, is floating away. She doesn't seem like she doesn't want to. She doesn't feel like she can help Riley at this point. That she's sort of useless, and Joy has to get her. So she goes over to this imagination place where she had previously saw this perfect boyfriend scenario making thing, and she has Bing Bong's bag that she had with her apparently. So she's able to store as many things as possible, which previously held the core memories, by the way. But she stacks up a bunch of them, and then sadness is flying away. Joy stacks up a bunch of them, and most of the memories are out. At this point, Riley is already on the bus, already taking route all the way back, potentially. Uh, so Joy builds up a bunch of them and then springs off of one of the last remaining bits of these memories, and then she springs into sadness, hits the control panel glass, and then Disgust brings up all these angry things. Oh, anger. Uh, and then he breaks the glass, and then they finally are able to get in. And Joy finally realizes that this is a moment for sadness to uh, touch this thing that didn't seem to work for any of the others. She finally gets it to work, and it makes Riley feel regret. She regrets her decision of wanting to run away from home, so she tells the bus driver to stop. She runs back home and explains how to her family that she misses home. So, just another few things that I probably left out. The humor in this, I think there were a lot of bits that made me smirk personally. Like there was this whole thing about the popular kids right before her speech. Joy is like, "Hey, we should make friends with them," and Discuss is like, "No, we have to not talk to them to make us think that they're cool." Something along those lines. Forgot exactly how she worded it, but that put a smirk on my face because she had realized it and she knew more about that sort of stuff. And that Joy was sort of oblivious to that sort of stuff. So the interactions between these characters are really fun. I think a few jokes might have slid overhead for me personally. I don't know. I guess someone's gonna have to tell me if San Francisco pizza is really that bad. I don't know. I never been there, so I wouldn't know. That feels like a very direct joke, I guess, or a very I want to say, I don't know what kind of joke that would fall under, but it's very specific. I want to say that's what the word I was looking for, but the humor is still throughout the movie, and probably the best joke comes at the end. So we finally see that Riley and her family do decide to stay there, and then she Joy is explaining that she has made new friends. She's continuing her hockey. She's getting along with her family, and the new memory behind them in the back is sort of this mix of all the things. And they get this new control panel and all that good stuff. And they sort of make this puberty thing. But that's not the joke. But they're at this hockey rink and they celebrate, and then Riley goes off, and then she sees a boy. Um, she says hi, and then he sort of has this blank expression on his face, and then the emotions inside of him are freaking the hell out, and it is just that is a really really solid joke that I absolutely I got it. It makes perfect sense. So she goes to play hockey, and then the emotions sort of just cheer her on and help her throughout the experience of the game, and then that's the end of it. I thought the majority of this movie was really, really solid. And I think a lot of people I've seen like a few other reviews completely agree. I did see a few reviews that were, or I've heard people talk about reviews that weren't as good, but I didn't see any of them personally that said this movie was bad, but I just don't see it. There were a lot of great moments here in this movie, and it was a full story that didn't feel like it had to have a bad guy. It was just a bad situation that ended up happening, and just him trying to figure these emotions, trying to figure it out. So I really do think that this movie is very open to the possibility of a sequel. And I think there was like one other person that had mentioned that, and I did want to bring this up because people get all crazy about sequels and all that stuff and whether or not it's going to be good. And a lot of people when mentioning that, they're like, but cars, like, and the funny thing about that is I wouldn't want to review that now because I think everything about that movie has been said. But I will say that it was a decent movie, but it felt like it ended there at the first movie. Like there was no further exploration needed in there, but they somehow felt like they could put other elements into it, and it clearly shows that it just couldn't work out then. Here, I believe that there's a lot more potential for a sequel, and it probably could very well work out. Uh, Personally, I would love to see the uh, adventures of Riley to continue. I think there's a lot more we can see from her. She's apparently aged and she's closer to puberty, which might be a touchy subject, I guess, but I think they could really pull off a lot of different things. If you're talking about sort of getting into the teenage years, I think Pixar can find a way to talk about that stuff in a humorous way, in a fun way, in a story engaging way. If they've proved it here, I think they can continue to really work off of that. And they do sort of touch on it here a little bit. Like I said, the ending joke was sort of that exactly. So if that sort of thing can really work, I really think they can expand upon that. And I think the perfect way to sort of continue it is have Joy sort of still there, of course, but sort of in the back, and let one of the other emotions sort of take center stage. And I believe the perfect emotion for this would be disgust, particularly because I think that emotion really invokes the years of being a teenager, wanting to fit in, all that stuff, the boyfriend thing, again, just all this stuff about wanting to be cool, wanting your either wanting your parents' approval or trying to rebel. All these possibilities are there. So, and the thing is, there are a lot of opportunities to also break away from any cliches that are about teenagers. We can continue to see Riley continue hockey and I think that would work really well. And just there can be other elements in there as well. We can see other emotions from other people continue, since that was something that it was clear on that the father and the mother had this one moment. And I thought the moment was okay. Not the best moment in the movie, but not the worst. I don't think there were any bad moments in this movie. Just okay, at the very worst. So I think that's everything that needs to be said. This is the longest review done. I'm trying to make my views a bit more lengthy and really trying to get in and talk about what's in the movie and what was really good about it and what was really bad about it, if anything. So I'm going to try to continue this sort of slightly longer reviews, hopefully, in the future. So with that being said, I'm going to give Inside Out a 9 out of 10. It is definitely a very well done, fully realized animated movie, and definitely worth watching. So again, that's a 9 out of 10, just in case you didn't hear that with the truck in the background. But with that being said, I think that about wraps it up. So this has been Thomas Sulu Jr., aka Mustache Tom, and I'll see you guys next time.